The pressure is on, my friends. It is time to go racing. It's the 2018 Forza Racing Championship live from Seattle, Washington. I'm Kate Osborne, and today our drivers have their final shot to earn those precious points as they continue to battle their way to the Series 1 playoff and earn a bit of that $250,000 prize pool. But first, they have to make it to the playoffs. It's round 4 of our Wednesday Showdown. The action starts now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome along to our studio presentation for the Wednesday Showdown. We're live from Seattle. I'm John Hindhaugh. Alongside me, Ali Tak, and our new man. The new man on the team is Alex Rodriguez. He'll be here not just today, but for the playoffs. He's already settled in. We had the show earlier on. If you weren't with us for that, we'll talk a little bit about the implications of what we saw earlier on today on the global standings. But first of all, we need to talk about who's here this evening for this show. Ali, this is tight. This is very tight, and what we're going to see is some great racing.
Earlier on today, we saw some just incredible results that absolutely changed the landscape of the Forza Racing Championship. And the artillery strikes haven't stopped, really. I mean, we're going to continue to see some amazing results here, particularly the pressure on Venom, Lightning, and Brizzo.
Yeah, you really don't know what to expect, and that's what's beautiful about this. And not only that, the pressure, we're there. We're towards the playoffs. So these guys, now is the time for them to show up and race. So I'm looking out for not only how they position themselves today, but also what they kind of reveal to each other. Because you got to know these guys are studying each other, and they know what's coming, which is the playoffs. So not only competing against themselves as a group, but also the EMEA region, which I'm sure some of these drivers were certainly watching earlier, so they know what's at stake here and they know what to expect.
Well, they say that the big mo when we come down to playoff time, momentum is all important. Let's find out how our grid got here as we look back on the Sunday Showdown. Melish has all the details.
Venom, Lightning and Billy Sue, your 3 titans of Lobby A in the NA regions, and it was Venom leading the cavalry charge through the first lap. However, it was TX3 Lightning with the sportsman-like behavior after grazing the wall onto the start-finish straight, moved over to allow his teammate Billy Sue to slip on through using the racing line. Billy Sue had found confidence in this moment and sparked an unsuccessful last gasp attack on FLH Venom, who was to fend off the young American and take the win in race number 1. Race number 2, the forecast was cloudy at the home of Spanish racery Catalunya GP, and it was a simple mistake from Venom on the first lap that saw Billy Sue head on through. Lightning could sense weakness in the F4H driver. Venom, defending like his life depended on it, was able to fend off some of the cleanest overtaking attempts from Lightning seen in the Sunday races. Towards the end of the race, it was the Chevy's one-wheel peel effect that saw Venom struggle to gain traction, and his efforts would be rewarded with a final step on the podium after Lightning took second. Race number 3 saw the inevitable cold tires, no braking dilemma take physical form with AMR Hurricane and GTR Master Apex spearing off into the sand traps and the tire walls. Again, it was a top 3, however, having a race at their own at the top of the pack with Billy Sue struggling to keep Lightning and Venom behind him. Billy Sue seemed to let Lightning pass, recognizing his superior pace in the Honda, but Venom, however, wasn't given the same treatment and found himself testing the walls of the defensive Billy Sue. Lightning's taking the win meant statistically all 3 powerhouses were tied on points, with each driver having a first, second and third finish going into the Wednesday Showdowns. Lobby B had Veloce, Force 1 pit the likes of Harmonix, Rev and Vanquish to pole position, but the battle for the bubble lit up with Sparky DS, Julian and Shadow Fox all battling straight from the get-go for those 2 unreserved Wednesday Showdown spots. Force 1 stormed ahead to take his first win out of 3. Race number 2 once again saw Force 1 extend his lead through consistency on the track. Meanwhile, Harmonic in a similar fashion to Venom, was unable to put the power down in the Corvette, giving Revs and Vanquish moments to seize, but was able to maintain and well defend his second position. The final race saw a carbon copy of great battles and racing respect as Vanquish used the slipstream to drive past Harmonic. That saw him finish the race in second, but after a controversial penalty handed out to Force 1, saw Vanquish bump up those 15 points to 20.
So that's how everyone got here from the Sunday Showdown, the great racing. 3 great tracks, 3 great car selections. I really like that. That was close. And if what we saw earlier on is anything to go by, it'll be exactly the same this evening. So let's have a look at that leaderboard. This is what came out of the Sunday heats. And, well, I mean, very tight at the top. Just 5 points between Lightning and Force 1. They will be the 2 to beat. And, you know, 15th position, Veloce, Force 1. Lightning is in that battle for 5th in the global standings. And all of these positions are really, really important right now, Ali.
They're all super important. Every point you can get really counts. It's because we're heading into the playoffs. That's the offline event here in Seattle. And the grid order will be set by the seeding at the end of this online championship. So as you say, the pressure right now is on Lightning, Venom, and of course God3 Brizzo, who can all make a big change.
And clean, decisive racing has to be the order of the day now, Alex.
Yeah, and, you know, talking about COD3 Pro Brizzo might be the storyline of the day here. He's trying to fight just to get in the top 50, and I want to go directly to you, Ali, because you made a really cool call earlier for when we were covering EMEA with racers, and you mentioned his name right away, and then boom, right in the first race, we saw him just muscle his way to the top 4. Is there anyone you're looking at particular? Maybe someone near the bottom of our standings that you're like, all right, look out for this guy to really make a name and really show up today and play?
I mean, Brizzo, right, he's the one who's on the cusp of that.
Right.
And you're so right in calling it as maybe the story of the day, because he can work his way up from outside the top 50 into a qualifying position here. He needs a lot of points to do it, though. He needs 40-something points, I think.
And he's a private air. He's got no team.
No team, out there practicing alone, just pushing all by himself. I love it. Just holding the flag for privateers.
Well, we will find out after the 3 races today exactly whether Brizzo has got into the playoff first of all, and that would be a great story. That would be a fantastic story. Kate is going to take us through how you guys can get involved and what we're expecting in the first couple of races.
You absolutely nailed it. Okay, the polls are open for race number 2. And this is extremely important because you really do get a chance to kind of dictate the outcome of this race. Let's go ahead and take a look at what these guys could be driving at Catalunya GP. Is it going to be that Chevy Corvette Z06, which really is a car that you have to be careful on how much throttle you put on, especially knowing the fact that this track is exceptionally curvy and turny, as we like to say? Or is it going to be the Oreca? And that is one that is a purpose-built prototype. Finesse and commitment are key with that. But let's go ahead and bring it back here. We're going to go back to the States, to a place that is so iconic, actually has the richest Formula One history, but more importantly, it's which track we're on. And that's the Watkins Glen Full. This is important to note because there is the inner loop, which was created, and that's the main difference between the two, an inner loop which was created for safety and for passing. And remember, with no assists, you got to be careful about that braking. This is a fast, a very technical track. And a couple of things that you want to watch for is getting uphill in turns 2, 3, and 4 and carrying that momentum. When drivers say that Watkins Glen is their favorite track, it is because it allows them to be drivers. As Marco Andretti said, this is one of those tracks that you have to really lay everything out there. You can't hold anything back. Interestingly enough, this is not going to be done with a race car. This is going to be done and driven with a 2016 Honda Civic Type R. This little bad boy, 0 to 62 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds. As Jeremy Clarkson said, if you are a serious helmsman, you will admire its ability to grip and go. It's a very nimble street car, but you have to remember, it is not a race car. So this is going to be exceptionally interesting on the Watkins Glen Full track, and I think it's going to create some interesting battles, gentlemen.
Couldn't agree more. That extra braking area, Ali, into the inner loop. So easy to overdrive at that point and hit something very hard indeed, and that'll be the end of your race.
Yeah, interesting that Kate called it as like as an addition for safety around Watkins Glen.
Well, it was to slow the top speed
to bring
down.
the top speed down. But on Forza, we've got a big slab of concrete to stop people cutting through that corner. And so probably the least safe part of this track. If you get it wrong there, you are going to stop at a very sharp pace.
It was a race that had just about everything in our EMEA showdown earlier on, and I expect nothing different here, Alex.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to keep a close eye on the front of this race. You know, in the very beginning, these guys trying to get into position, and you talk about the pole starts and where you're starting on that pole. You know, if you're in fourth, you want to try to make it to first to try to compete for that top spot. So look out for those moves to be made in the very beginning. However, you mentioned the EMEA. We saw those moves happen, and we also saw a crash in the beginning. So we're going to look out for that as well.
Stand by. If you're sitting down, get on the edge of your seat because you're not going to need all of it. The Wednesday Showdown is ready to go. Here's the grid confirming that front row. Watch out for lightning from row number 2, renowned as a fast starter, but there's some very, very good drivers in there. Pick out in 7th position, Revs was an absolute sensation in last season, but it really has made no impact. Is this redemption for the 7th place starter here? We'll find out after our first race, and let's see who sets the pace as we're ready to go at Watkins Glen International. And the action described for you by Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, here we go. Keep a close eye on Venom. He watched Liege earlier today. He needs those points. I'm looking out for Venom to make a jump straight to the front, so we'll keep an eye on that. Here we go. Getting started here on Watkins Glen. Approaching turn number 1. Look out for these guys to have a lot of contact in the beginning here as they're trying to spread themselves out and try to find out where they're going to be in this race. So far, we're pretty clean. No crashes thus far. And remember, in the previous race, we already saw a crash by this point by Box, knocked out pretty early. So these guys playing respectful. It looks like we don't have too much altercations at this point, and these guys finding their spots in this lineup for now. Looks like we're taking a look at Lightning. It looks like he is in that 5th position right now on the track, trying to stay in that safe spot. And I'm very interested in who's at the front. Yes, it is Force 1 at the very front, and he's holding that spot. He started in the front, and he's going to try to keep it there.
You can pick out Venom just a little bit ahead here of the pack we're looking at. Absolutely line astern all of them. He's in the red livery, 2nd place. So Venom already up to 2nd. That's good news for him. 5th Lightning in this gaggle of cars. I love the way you can race in these hatchbacks. This thing's getting a little bit messy there through the chute for the first time.
Yeah, look at the contact there. And again, on this Watkins Glen track, the first half of the race is not as technical as the second half. Turns 1 through 5, relatively simple. However, here we go through 6, 7, 8, and 9. This is a very technical part of the track. So look out for these guys to make their moves. But as we can see, Force 1 in the front, Venom trying to make a move as well. But Billy Sue making a move right there, as we can see. So look out for him, as we can see him in that 3rd position, keeping a very close eye on the driver in front of him. But these guys are very close, very compact at this point in time. You can see 5 or 6 or 7 cars all very close to each other in the front of this race.
And Billy Sue, you know, we didn't call him before the race. I've been calling him all season. What a sensation he's been, coming out here to the ForzaRC for the first time and threatening drivers like Venom. Absolutely established names out here. So Billy Sue, one to watch.
Interesting line from Venom there as he came through turn 9. Looked like he missed the apex. We needed a formal introduction. He was so far away from the pointy bit of the corner, but actually made that line work and was able to take a lot of speed through there. And what looked to have been a mistake actually paid off and gave him about a car's length between himself and the chasing pack.
We are 1 lap down, heading into lap 2 on this straightaway. And we can see in the front there, again, that's Force 1 holding on to that advantage. Venom, though, he knows how important this race is. Remember, Liege, that's who he's chasing right now. He was in the front the entire time, so Venom knows what he's after. There's a tricky decision there. You want to be confident, but you also don't want to get yourself into danger. So I'm wondering right now if Venom is kind of chilling, if he's okay with being in 2nd place as long as he doesn't get too much into danger. Because once you get in danger, you're risking a crash, and then you're risking not even finishing in the top 10 of the race.
I think at this point he's got to be looking for solid points. You can take more risks later on. He's got to take what's out there at the moment, Ali. There's no sense in trying to go for something that isn't there. These cars are so closely matched and these drivers have such confidence levels in them. These little front-wheel drive hatchbacks, you can throw them around and really, in some respects, you're just waiting for the competition to make a mistake.
For most drivers, I would say, like, oh, he doesn't have an off switch, he's going to race as hard as he can all the way through this. But Venom, throughout the championship, has just shown how smart he is. I've seen him every week here almost looking like he doesn't have the pace of Lightning, but outsmarting him every time, being safer, not making the mistakes, and collecting consistent points. That's why he's fighting for second in the global leaderboard, and that's why Lightning is fighting for fifth.
And we see a little bump there from Billy Sue onto Venom, so being a little cheeky there, and Venom has to be super safe, you know, playing that defense, but also making sure he doesn't get spun out of control. So he's got to make sure to manage that lead so he can get those turns nice and tight and keep that distance from Billy Sue. But look at Billy Sue here. We're on his camera right now, right behind Venom. He is so close, looking for a way to pass. So Venom really needs those points. He's trying to keep that front position. Billy Sue with another bump onto the back of Venom. He is relentless towards Venom right now, really making his presence known, maybe trying to get into the head of Venom a little bit, and you got to think Venom's being super cautious right now. He does not want a crash to happen because that would be a disaster.
Needs a really clean exit from the final corner to get the run down the front straight. There's a little bit of a gap there. He might be able to get a run here, and if he can do that, he might turn that into an overtake maneuver down into turn one, but they were so evenly matched there. There's absolutely not an inch being gained or lost in that battle for second position.
And wondering who this kid is.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about the nature of this track. The first half of the track, as we were approaching lap number 3, is not going to be as receptive to those passes as you get into the second half of the track, where there's a lot of technical turns, especially around 6, 7, 8, and 9. So again, look out for those turns, for those moves to happen. But at the same time, you know, we are at lap 3 out of 7, so it is a relatively long race. So we're not even halfway through. So there might be an element of patience here where these guys are trying to find the perfect moment to make that pass happen. As we see some movement here between, this is 6 and 7 right now, battling it out, going, it looks like another turn to the left here and a second one. But we're seeing a lot of jockeying for position throughout this entire track. And again, there's a lot on the line for all these players. We're going to keep a close eye on Brizzo. We can see him right now in the 9th position. He really needs points. He needs 41 points just to get in the top 50. So that's another guy we're going to look out to try to make a move to make himself go further up in the pack.
Revs and Lightning are having this battle. Revs in the bright red machine just heading towards the toe of the boot. Got to say a word for Veloce. Are they the team of the moment? Because we saw in the earlier final of our showdown that they were doing well, and once again, Force One, since he joined that team, has found some form. Let's discuss that in a moment. Brian has been watching some of the action from earlier on in the race.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to take a look at that replay again and show you a little bit of what was happening between Lightning and Harmonic. If the guys can pull it up, we could show that replay. But what we were seeing off the line was Lightning and Harmonic pretty clean right off. Here we are. Perfect. So right off the line, a really clean start. We always expect trouble in this turn 1, so it's steeper than you think. Remember back to turns 3 and 4 up here going uphill. Remember a few weeks ago in the NASCAR, we saw some accidents. I remember Roadrunner getting involved in an incident there. But here we are going back down the straight. You saw right there how close Lightning was to Harmonic. As they were pushing down towards the bus stop chicane, you saw some contact between Lightning and Harmonic, really pushing hard there. Looks like now at this point, Harmonic is pulling away from Lightning.
Relatively clean racing going a part of the circuit that has promoted a little bit of paint trading. Thanks, Brian, and the team backstage for pulling up that analysis for us. We're just over half distance. Little tag on the Armco for the 4th place driver, AMS Vanquish, and Alex has the action for
Yeah,
it.
we're not seeing an incredible amount of movement in the front of the pack. Force One holding that lead comfortably, and of course Venom actually extending his lead over Billy Sue. Take a look at that, the difference in feet there, 200 to 91. So Venom able to get about 110-foot advantage, and we saw they were bumper to bumper about a lap and a half ago. So we can see Venom doing a great job just staying in that space. And again, he really needs points if he's going to catch up to Liege and try to get himself a spot into 2nd place in our global standing. So really keeping a close eye on that. Billy Sue falling a little bit behind, and now we see Vanquish actually catching up to Billy Sue a little bit. So Billy Sue a little bit variable right now. At first it looked like he was looking to pass Venom, but now Venom able to get a nice gap, and almost altercation there, almost a collision, but Vanquish holding the brakes there right in the nick of time, and Billy Sue is going to hold on to his advantage there for now.
If you're going to make a mistake, the toe is not the worst place to do it, because it's so uphill there that even if you miss your braking point, gravity is slowing you down. And what we're seeing here, I think, Ali, is as soon as Vanquish got a tiny bit of a gap between himself and the chasing pack, he was able to focus forward, and he's immediately made a move to get closer to 3rd place.
absolutely right. A little bit of clean air there helping Vanquish out. Of course, the winner from last week here in NA is AMS Vanquish, so holding down the fort for Alien Motorsport here. I've just been looking at the positions, the relative positions of the drivers and trying to work out what that means for the global leaderboard. Right now with Venom running in second, that's a good pace for him to maybe overtake Lage for second on that standing. But Lightning back in fifth will need to do better than that.
And, you know, we talked about the moves that were being made when we were watching EMEA in the same situation. And Ali, I got to go to you again on this, man. We're seeing this battle between number 1 and number 2. Venom showing a little bit of patience. Look at this, getting closer and closer to Force 1 here. It looks like he's almost able to go for a pass, but just staying behind. Ali, if Venom is looking for an opening right now, where do you see that happening? He's very close to Force 1. He definitely wants to get in that first position. Where do you think he's looking for that pass to happen?
I love this fight. I love it. Two of the members of the winning team at the pre-seasonal invitational coming together on different teams now that Force 1's jumped ship from F4H to Veloce. Venom will be looking to pass later in the track. You're absolutely right with your call earlier, Alex. Gets a little bit more twisty, a little slower later in the lap, and that'll be a chance for Venom to throw one up the inside, potentially. But I just love how this kind of reflects these two drivers' attitudes towards each other. Force 1, the apprentice, Venom, the master. Is that starting to change?
Yeah, a lot of respect being shown by all these drivers, and it just looks like right now Venom, almost like a poison, right? He's looking for that moment, looking for that opening, just any gap that Force 1 can give to him. He's gonna pounce. We're looking out for that right now. You can see how close he is to that Force 1 car, and again, looking for that opening. So Force 1, this might be a test of maturity for him, a test of patience for him as well. Being defensive, but also realizing that this guy behind him, he definitely wants points. And Force 1, he's doing everything right now that he can to keep Venom from passing him.
I do like the difference in the styles of these two drivers, and you can see it in these little front-wheel drive cars. It's very much all about the braking efficiency from second place Venom, whereas at the moment, Force 1 is just trying to hold his racing line. He's not feeling pressured enough, Ali, to drive a defensive line, because we're not seeing a real challenge here. But they are using the steering and the throttle slightly differently. It looks to me as though Venom is getting a little better exit from the corners and able to turn that into a potential passing maneuver.
You know, Force 1 knows that if Lightning's going to make the move, in the words of Kendrick, he's going to make it look sexy, and he's not going to throw that up the inside too violently. So Force, you know, Venom will be looking to like make a beautiful move round the outside, you know, one for the ages. Force 1's not scared of the dive bomb.
Yeah, there's barely any space here between these two cars, and it's been that way for the past 3 or 4 laps. Venom just looking for that opening right now, but he's having trouble finding it, and they're kind of getting themselves a lead on Billy Sue, and Billy Sue right now just trying to hold off the people behind him, maybe not even thinking about closing that gap to second place, but this is the battle we're seeing right now between first and second on your screen. Venom still looking for that opening, but Force 1 just closing it, just keeping those turns tight and preventing those gaps from opening up.
If you ever want an illustration of what fast on Forza looks like, check out the way that these cars are pivoting on their suspension. The balance of the car changing constantly as they go through the bus stop chicane, that inner loop. This adds so difficult to pull off, so hard to do.
Slight mistake by the leader there, and there's half a chance here, but it's only half a chance, and it can't be turned into a full chance as they head down towards the toe of the boot again. Remember, this is uphill, easy to spin up the front wheels as you're heading up the hill here. If you just get on the throttle too quickly, you can't just floor the throttle in these little front wheel drive cars. No assists, no traction, no stability, no ABS. This is racing at its absolute best.
Again, not too much real estate left in this race. Lap 6 out of 7. We're running out of room for Venom to find that moment, and I wonder if he has a sense of urgency right now. He knows what's at stake. He knows what he needs, but he's having trouble finding any room here as Force 1, again, keeping those turns incredibly tight, trying to just fend Venom off. But I love this racing here from Venom right now, just making his presence known, taking up the entire rear view mirror here of Force 1, just to maybe try to get in his head a little bit, try to get him to make a mistake. But for now, Force 1 is not, again, he's not making any mistakes, and he's holding on to that first position.
What's amazing to me, gentlemen, is that although this is fierce battling at the front of the field, and make no mistake, we're not seeing a try for a pass here, but these guys are on their absolute ragged edge. They're not slowing each other down at all, because third and back are not catching them, Ali.
They're not. They're not at all. Those two nicely paced out front there. We've got, of course, third place here. Is this Billy Sue? It is.
Yes, it
so
is.
Billy Sue having run a good race. We've been looking at that front pair so long. Anything could have happened behind, but Billy Sue staying consistent. I love that.
Yeah, and you know, this is the time for Billy Sue to make a move. This is the last lap. It looks like we just went around turn 3, turn 4. We're getting about halfway through this final lap, approaching the technical part of this track. So keep a very close eye on what happens here in the next 30 seconds or so, because we're going to go down some technical turns, and Billy Sue, he wants to win this race, absolutely. So he's going to try to sneak in and steal this one from Venom and Force One. But again, Force One doing a great job staying in front, not leaving any room. But as we can see, Billy Sue, is he getting closer? It seems like he's getting closer and closer, guys.
There might be one chance for him, right?
Billy Sue gets there now, and he's got to do it straight away before they realise that they're right on him. Venom will know now that he's there, and Billy Sue has breached that gap, so the leaders were slowing each other down a little bit.
You know, that's so important, though. He's got the element of surprise here. There's not time for Venom to get into a rhythm with Billy Sue, to get used to him being behind him. Billy Sue straight up the inside of the toe.
Looking for that gap. This is turn 7. There's only 4 turns left. This is the time to make your move, approaching turn number 8. Then, of course, 9, 10, and 11, and then it's the straightaway to the finish line. This is the opportunity. This is the chance to make a move. But as I say that, Force One seemingly extending his lead, edging a little bit further in front of Venom, and now it looks like Venom is just doing everything he can to hold off Billy Sue. So we'll have to see how this ends up here, going around turn number 9, another very sharp turn, and it looks like Billy Sue now making his presence incredibly known to Venom there, trying to find some room, and we're approaching the final turn here as Force One, it looks like he's running away with it in first place, but now the question is, can Billy Sue make up any ground here on Venom? As it's the last turn, he's going to try to make it happen, try to go to the outside, getting on the grass a little bit. Got to be careful, he's going to turn back in, but it looks like that's mission accomplished there for Venom, staying in second place, and that's going to do it. The checkered flag going down. Force One, first place, Venom crossing in second, and Billy Sue in third place. That's the positions we've seen, and it looks like holding on to those positions, so it got a little bit tricky there at the end, but you know, Force One doing a great job holding his position in the front, and then the story out of nowhere, Venom having to hold off Billy Sue at the end, who was trying to make a late run for the victory.
Yeah, I thought that was a stunning run at the front of the field. The pace pretty quick. It was only that last lap, wasn't it, where things slowed down a little bit and allowed Billy Sue to bridge the gap. But I thought that was an incredibly well-judged race from the front of the field and Velocia Force One.
I loved that little battle there between Billy Sue and Venom. Just through the last little complex of corners, it all started on the left-hander, the second to last corner, when Venom took a bit too much apex, couple of wheels on the grass, and you saw him having to extend his line on the way out of that corner. Billy Sue able to power down more easily and tried it around the outside. Didn't work that time, but, you know, you got to try it.
Yeah, and at that point, you can kind of tell, all right, that's pretty much it, because he kind of was hitting the grass a little bit and then ended up slowing down dramatically, so fell further behind in third place. But kudos to Force One, first of all, for holding off Venom, and then what a race there from Venom, able to hold off Billy Sue, because Billy Sue had a fire under him, but Venom able to hold him off.
Great stuff at the sharp end of the field. We've asked you to get involved, and Kate has some of the social media interaction. What do you have, Kate?
Well, first, that was incredible battles, but I wanted to say that we got a quick question specifically for you, John, from THR_flip mode. You know, question for John, do you see similar racing tactics with these drivers and then drivers who are out street side?
Absolutely. It has to be. It's all about concentration and consistency. It's not just about overall speed, and I think a perfect illustration there at the front of the field as Venom did everything he could potentially do to hold off Billy Sue, whilst Force One got the gap, held the gap, and then at the end decided it was a good idea to just back it off so he didn't make a mistake. That allowed Billy Sue across the gap. This is all about just feeling what you can do and keeping your concentration levels up. It's exactly the same in real world as it is in VR and here in Forza. Good question. Keep them coming, and Kate will keep us up to date. And now we can have a look at the results from our first race in the Wednesday Showdown. Confirmed as the first, second and third that we were talking about. Vanquish down in 4th position. That's a bit of an odd result for Vanquish in that battle for 15th position. These still provisional at the moment. There was a little bit, you're bound to get a bit of bumping and boring and a bit of paint swapping in hatchback racing. Revs in 6th, not sure he'll be delighted with that. Lightning down in 7th, certainly won't be happy with that.
Yeah.
Anything that you thought might be looked into there, guys?
Last time we saw Lightning, he was in 5th. Like,
Yeah,
he was running
he dropped
fine.
back. He dropped back.
So he slipped back down to 7th there for the end of the race. I wonder if there's something happening there. Also, Brizzo, this guy, he's on the bubble, trying to get into the top 50 here. An 8th place position finish is actually quite strong for Brizzo. It's actually pretty good for him. So racing his heart out, but maybe not a good enough result to set himself up for that big qualifier that he wants.
Well, that's 4 points.
He needs 41.
And he needs 41, so he's still got 37 to get. That's, you know, that's going to be, it's effectively 2 wins he needs at this point.
Or 12 races.
He's got some work to do, that's for sure.
Eventually it might come if we have infinity races, just to quote Mr. Ali Tak alongside me. We'll have the full results confirmed for you and a look back at the highlights in just a few moments. The action continues when we come back on the Wednesday Showdown, live from Seattle.
Sorry, not sorry. Time to get gnarly. 10 feet tall, bring on in the army. Remember the tribe, remember the name. Came from the side, ahead of the game. Yo, why you putting on your threads, boy? I'm way ahead. Why you sleeping in the bed, man? I'm making next. No fear, I put it in high gear. You know that the champ's here. You ready to go here? Hey, push yourself, prove yourself, express yourself loud, defy limitations. On your outside, on your outside. Burn him up, buddy, burn him up. Somebody hit me. There, clear. Still there. You put it. Oh my goodness.
IndyCar.
Back to the front.
The future starts now.
Push it, keep pushing.
The 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series. The future starts now.
The culmination of the month of May is on Sunday with the 102nd running of the Indy 500. And to recognise that, in our last race today, we'll be racing Indy cars. More of that in a moment. But let's go back to that first, the opening race of our final Wednesday Showdown for North America region. And Brian has the highlights.
You know, we're not making headlines when we say that the skill level between 1st and 12th position in North America is wider than it is in EMEA, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get some fantastic racing. Here, we're going to focus on some battles between 1st and 2nd, and the battle between Lightning and Vanquish, I think it was. Yeah, so first let's start with those two guys. At the start, they were working really hard. We saw some contact between them. Actually, it was Venom that I wanted to focus on, but this is Revs. Revs and Lightning had a lot of incidents in there. We saw them making contact with one another. Eventually, Revs got around Lightning completely. Some fantastic driving for Revs. He was putting on so much pressure on him. But at the front of the race, of course, we had the battle between Force One and Venom. Yep. An incredible race. One thing that I heard about Venom that you guys might appreciate is that he is using cloud shadows as his braking points on a lot of these tracks.
No way.
So on a sunny track like we just saw at Watkins Glen, he's using cloud shadows to know when to brake his car. What happens when we go to an overcast race? Is that going to affect someone like him? I'm not sure.
First rule of racing in the real world, never pick something as a brake marker that can move. So somebody standing at the side of the track in a bright orange top or something that can move like a cloud. Pick a tree or something like that. Oh, that is phenomenal stuff. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Great racing at the front of the field. And Brian will be back with us a little bit later on to talk more about our other races, which I think will be just as close. Who put in the best performance from your point of view, Brian, there?
Well, I think you got to say Force One. He had so much pressure from Venom right behind him pretty much the entire race. He's a young guy. We saw him at the Invitational. I love on social media, he gets really fired up about how well he's been doing, as well he should. He's come a long way. We talked about it in round 3, how far Force One has come in just a few races here in the Forza Racing Championship, and he's solidifying his claim for the North American title.
So, just waiting for the provisional results. I think we can. I don't think they've global. We can go to now. Excuse me, I'm getting myself confused here. So this is how things stand in the provisional leaderboard worldwide. And why is this important, Ali?
This is important because this sets the seeding as we go into the playoff, the offline event happening in Seattle in just a few weeks' time. Just earlier on today, we saw Lage overwhelm TX3 Wesley, excuse me. I say overwhelmed by 1 point. He got past him for second place. And the same story between Mitch and Box. Battling it out in EMEA earlier on, Mitch securing 5th. Right now, we're going to watch Venom, sitting there in 4th position, try and tackle Lage for 2nd. He can do that. I think Hard BR's locked out in the lead here. We should mention that. But also Lightning, trying to sneak his way past Box and maybe past Mitch.
And there are stories all the way down the points table. Of course, anyone who's missed out and isn't in the running right now for the first of our playoffs in a couple of weeks' time here in Seattle, don't worry, because we've got more racing to come, and Kate has the details.
Well, we do have more racing to come, but hey, our playoffs they're almost over. Today's the last day, but that doesn't mean that we're not still looking for playoffs or people to continue our playoffs number 2. And our Series 2 kicks off in July. You can register at, of course, ForzaRC.com. That is something you want to make sure you're a part of, but also if you continue to watch us at watch.forza.rc.com. That's one of those places that you can continue your quests and really achieve some of these really incredible deals that you really, gentlemen, I think that's something that you guys would want, right?
All of them.
These incentives?
I'm absolutely loving that XK120. My father's favourite ever road car. My grandfather had one for a very short amount of time. He, interestingly, had borrowed it before anybody says
It looks a bit like
anything.
the Inspector Morse car. Is it
Without the roof.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of era and there's potentially the same engine as well, that beautiful Jaguar straight 6 that goes all the way back to the Le Mans winners in the 1950s. Kate there talking about our second series. Let's take a look at the competition schedule just to see how we have got here all through the Series 1 showdowns, heats, etc. have brought us to today and our Series 1 playoffs in a couple of weeks' time in mid-June here in Seattle. We'll be bringing those drivers here to race offline. It'll be a LAN race. Very, very different style of racing, different atmosphere for the drivers as well. Then we kick off Series 2, heading to a Mexico City final, and then we bring it all together for the World Championship in Landon Town.
Landon, mate. Giza. It's going to be awesome.
And honestly, what an opportunity for everyone involved here. I mean, you got to think all these invites that we're going to be sending out by the end of the day to the top 50 racers, where did they come from? They could be just like you. And we're just watching one day and they're like, you know what, let's go for it. And you can do that too. The next series won't be starting until July. So there's a good amount of time to get trained up. So if you're watching right now and you got the itch for some Forza and you want to compete, definitely get that practice in and take advantage of these opportunities, because what an incredible opportunity for these guys to be able to use their skill in Forza to get trips around the world.
Yeah, that's a great point, Alex. I just want to mention how many drivers we've seen this season who we've never seen before in the Forza Racing Championship coming out and bringing it to the top drivers.
Love it.
It's so possible. You're so right.
The fact that we haven't got the results yet call me a detective, means, and I'm just hearing the results have been finalised, so we can have a quick look at that. I was just about to, well, we did have one penalty there for Hurricane, which pushed him down to the back of the field, but as we thought at the front of the field, 2015, 12, 10, 8, etc. for the top runners, and that it makes interesting reading, particularly for Venom in that battle for overall second position in the global standings.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. I've just got all my maths sitting in front of me, scribbling away here. Venom doing a good job there. He needs to rack up around 46, 47 points. He's got 15 of them. He needs a race win. He's going to have to be the top of the podium at least once, but it's not at all outside of the realms of possibility.
All right, let's get back to Kate as she gives us the lowdown on what's happening in our next races. Kate, what do you have?
All right, so before we kickstart what's happening in race number 2, let's go ahead and talk about race number 3. Now, on our chat, you guys were just talking about Robert Wickens. Well, now you have the opportunity to race with his teammate, James Hinchcliffe's car. That's going to be the Honda, the number 5 of Schmidt-Peterson Motorsport. Or maybe it's going to be Joseph Newgarden, the defending IndyCar Series champ. This is what we'll be racing. One of these will be racing on Road America, one of the most iconic race courses in the States. But hey, let's go all the way over to the other side of the pond. We're going to go to Barcelona here and talk about which car will be running on Catalunya GP. And it's going to be that Chevy Corvette. Now, this is one of those cars that is America's sports cars running on one of the most iconic European tracks that there is. This is a testing track for F1. Most F1 drivers know it best. It's a good mix of corners, those big braking areas, downhill into turn number 1, a passing opportunity in turn number 2, and passing action right there into turn number 14. I think it's going to be really interesting with the fact that this is one of those cars that you really have to be careful with that throttle on a course that has so many turns, gentlemen.
I think that's another great choice by the community. I know you wanted the Eureka, didn't you? You wanted that prototype car, but that's because you want the big downforce. You're not having it. It's going to be the straight cars again, which means bumping, boring, side-by-side action. And when I say boring, I don't mean boring. I mean bumping and boring. And Alex Rodriguez has the action from the Circuit of Catalunya at Barcelona.
Thank you, John, and I'm especially looking out for Venom here again. Keep your eye on this guy. We saw how well Force One did in the first race, where he's able to pretty much hold off all the way through. So if I'm looking at that and I'm Venom, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I have to make it happen in the very front, because Force One, he is driving excellently today. Very defensive driving, able to hold his position that entire way through that first track. So I don't know, Ali, if you agree or not. Does Venom need to make his move in the very front?
Venom needs to break Force One's rhythm. You're absolutely right. Force One looked so comfortable in the first race. That was my real takeaway there. He looked so comfortable and ready to soak up pressure.
All right, here we go. Underway here at Catalunya. Yes, it was designed to look like a bull's horns from the air. Take a look at that. But in a very different setting here compared to the first track. We have a lot of opportunities to make some moves in the front, so let's see what happens here. Going down to turn number 1, we're seeing a little bit of contact here. All these guys getting compact and a little bit off the track there. Looks like that was Vanquish going off a little bit on the left-hand side, and it looks like there is some jockeying happen in the very front. Right now we're looking at the battle between 6 and 7 here, as all these drivers, again, trying to get their spot in this lineup, trying to stay a little bit safe, but also trying to make a move. And look at that in the very front. I think that might be Venom trying to make a move there onto Force One, and this would absolutely be the time to do it. Remember, we mentioned it. This track has a lot of technical turns here in the front, so there is the ability to pass a little bit easier than what we saw in the first track, Beverly Glen. But for now, it looks like Force One is going to hold his position in the front, but Venom is so close to him, staying right on his bumper.
Some beautiful driving there in the foreground by TX3 Lightning, working his way up into 5th position after a 7th place start. So 2 passes, and we're only halfway through the first lap. It's red versus blue at the front, though. Blue for Veloce, red for F4H.
And I have to say that F4H in second place with Venom has been doing a great job early on. He heeded what you guys were saying before the race went green and tried to put the pressure on our pole man, and he has, well, he's risen to that challenge, hasn't he, the pole sitter, and at the moment has held on. And I reckon if he gets round this first lap and doesn't get another challenge, then it's going to be so difficult to take that lead spot away from him, Alex.
We saw how excellent he was driving from the front there in that first race. So to me, Force One, maybe see you later. Is he just in the front? Is he just going to run away with this? I think that's certainly possible as we see him kind of going a little bit further there in front of second. But I want to pay some attention to Vanquish here, who ended up finding himself behind Billy Sue. But in this race so far, he actually finds himself in the third position. Now Billy Sue is in fourth. So you know Billy Sue, we saw him in the latter part of the first race that we saw really honestly make his presence known, jockeying, trying to go for second, even for first. So you got to think Billy Sue in that fourth position. He has his eyes lasered onto Vanquish right now. And I feel like Billy Sue has a lot of work to do here, and he's definitely going to try to get it done here and make some passes.
Keep in mind, this is the second week running that Billy Sue has out-qualified TX3 Lightning. TX3 Lightning, the absolute monster, the top driver in TX3, almost without doubt. So Billy Sue doing a great job to bring it to him there. But right now, Lightning in his mirrors, things might start getting a little bit more even.
But Lightning, I think, has set his sights on the guys ahead of him. He seems to have target acquired, and he's trying to make the break and get that gap bridged between himself and the leading two. We'll keep our eyes on what's going on at the sharp end of the field. Brian has some action from earlier on in this second race.
Yeah, I want to stick right here with actually Lightning because he's made some bold moves to get into fifth place. Here's basically right after the start. This is essentially one long move from Lightning. He gets past Revs, who, of course, the car he was fighting in the previous race. He's on the outside here. You wonder if he's going to be able to make this stick, and there's Harmonic right in front of him as well. But here he got around both cars really smoothly in essentially a 1-2 fashion. And now the thing that Lightning has to contend with is his behind his TX3 teammate in Billy Sue.
And that might just change his mindset, about 1%, I would think, in terms of how much he will attack. Just 2 laps down of the 7 as they come across the line again at Catalonia. Let's get back to Alex for the action.
Yeah, we're heading into that straightaway, going into lap number 3 and Force One. I mean, Brian talked about it too. He's ecstatic about how he's been racing. He's been vocal about it too, and I can absolutely see why. Holding that position in the front and really not letting it be any other way. But you got to know Venom. He knows what's on the line. Venom needs those points. He needs the first place. He's chasing Liege from again from the EMEA region, trying to get into that second position. So Venom definitely wants to make some moves, so we'll definitely keep a close eye on him. But for now, Force One in the front, and I'm very curious about this TX3 duo with Lightning and Billy Sue. How is this going to develop? Obviously, they're not going to want to make each other crash, but at some point, they're going to want to make some moves on those guys in front of them. So I'm really looking out for Billy Sue or Lightning to start really making some moves on those top 3.
Lightning, I would think, would want to stamp his authority back on his teammate here, having been out-qualified for the last couple of race events, and try and put Billy Sue back in the box.
Too right, John. Too right. I mean, that's exactly what he's looking to do. Lightning is such a fast driver. We mentioned it just a second ago, you know. He sees a teammate livery up ahead. That changed his mindset. You said 1%. I might bring that down all the way to 0. Lightning has for a team driver, he's very much a privateer.
And again, keeping COD 3 Pro Brizzo in mind, remember he needs points to get just top 50 so we can get an invite to our playoffs. But for now, I think he's sitting in 9th place. So he's got some work to do to make some moves here to just try to get in the top 50 in the global standings. Billy Sue, look at this, getting really close here. As you can see, incredibly close to that bumper there. And it looks like he's backing off a little bit, but remember, this track, there's so many opportunities to make those passes, a lot of tight technical turns as we're in the straightaway once more, but look out for Billy Sue, again, to make a move very soon. There is some room here, lap 4 out of 7 right now. There's some time to do, you don't have to rush it, but we saw him, again, jockeying for a position all race in the last track, so we're looking out for him to do a similar thing.
Vanquish is in a battle himself now. He's dropped back just a tiny bit, and looks like he's got trouble from behind. Yeah, Vanquish has dropped back just a little bit from the guys in front, and Billy Sue trying to get on terms. This is one of those tracks, Ali, that if you just make a bit of a Horlicks, a mess of one corner, it can affect your whole lap because you lose rhythm. It's very much a rhythm circuit, and you get out of step with one part of the track, it can put you off for 2, 3, 4 more corners.
Yeah, with a car like the Corvette as well as Vanquish, but a little bit of a lock up there from Vanquish, not one that Billy Sue can capitalize on, I don't think, through this sector. If you get out of sync with this Corvette around this track, it can feel like a barrel of understeer. That was very much the feedback we got from Roadrunner after his race in EMEA. So you want to stay in tune with the car, in tune with the track, and feel it as a precise instrument rather than as a big skidding front tire.
And we're approaching that infamous turn 10 right now, a very tight turn here on this track as we see these drivers approach that. Billy Sue looking to try to make a move here on Vanquish, but Vanquish driving those turns incredibly tight, not allowing any room to be reckoned with and holding on to that position.
And a slight mistake by Venom in the Reds. Corvette ahead has allowed these two to gain just a little bit. We're into the second half of the race. Kate, with more from the social media side of things.
An incredible race we have going on here. But real quick question, I put out there, what turn do people think is the most challenging here at Catalunya? And it came back that last chicane, and also don't sleep on turn 7. That sand on the exit is deadly. Why, guys, are those the most challenging turns?
Well, it's getting the braking down into the chicane, coming downhill again, always difficult to stop a heavier car. And if you drop a single wheel, Ali, into that sand at turn number 7, you are just going to kill your momentum and lose. In a race like this, you're going to lose positions.
Yeah, turn 7 super complex. A lot of different elevations coming from the curbs out there. There's AstroTurf, there's the red and white little bits, all offering different amounts of grip, including the paint on the side of the track. It's all modeled on Forza Motorsport 7, so you get the whole experience of the track as it evolves. An incredible little area and very, very tricky.
Brian has been watching right through the field and has more.
We're really focused on 1 and 2 right now. I wanted to talk a little bit about lap times. Force 1 and Venom. Venom, of course, behind. But as you can see, he seems to be moving up towards Force 1. A couple laps ago, there was an 0.8 of a second between them. Now it's down to 0.2, depending on where you're on the track. But you can see he's trying to reel Force 1 in. But right now, Force 1 is doing a fantastic job just staying ahead.
And the laps are running out for the drivers behind the man at the front. Veloce, Force 1 leading it out. This is another beautifully judged race. Let's go to the checkered flag with Alex.
Yeah, and here's that turn 10 once again, a very technical turn, very tight there on the inside. Let's see if there's any problems here from any of our drivers. As we can see, looks pretty smooth right now, not too many movements. Force 1 still comfortably in the front, Venom just behind him, and the same order we've seen this the entire way through here as we have Vanquish, then Billy Sue, Lightning, Harmonic, pretty much business as usual for all these drivers here as we're looking out for those opportunities to make those moves as we approach these final turns here in this lap number 5. But as of right now, I am personally super impressed with Force 1 holding on to that lead and even extending it at times, it seems. Very confident there in the front, and that's not only important for this race, but of course going into the playoffs, having that confidence.
Is there here, Ali, just a slight bit of, I'm not going to put myself and my points on the line in this first race of 3, particularly from the guys, let's say, in the top 3 positions. They've got a decent hand of cards, and they've decided to hold what they've got.
I agree. We're in the second race. We're in the second race already.
Second race, excuse me,
but I agree. There is a certain amount here where it's like, I don't need to make that risk. I don't have to fight for those points, so I'm not going to make unnecessary moves. All these drivers as well, though, I feel like they're very much in pace order, with Horizon at a place where basically everyone's on the track where they ought to be. This will all get flipped around and reversed going into the next race. The fastest drivers will be at the rear for the final race of this Wednesday Showdown, and that will be an absolute spectacle, so do stick around for that.
Yeah, lap 6 out of 7 right now, and COD 3 Pro Brizzo actually falling back a little bit, dropping to 11th. Remember, he was around the 8th or 9th position a little bit earlier, but some moves being made by those around him is going to push him near the back, and again, Brizzo needs all the points he can possibly get. Remember, he needed 41 points coming into today to get into the top 50, which is what you need to get an invite to our playoffs. So Brizzo not doing so well at this point. We'll have to see if he can turn that around, but as you guys have mentioned, and I think I'm finding myself agreeing with you, not a lot of risk being taken in the very front. Rather stay safe and stay comfortable rather than risk throwing it all away. So we're seeing a similar lineup there in the front this entire race through. Force 1, Venom, Vanquish, Billy Sue, Lightning, Harmonic, Revs has pretty much been the order here, but we're approaching lap 7 out of 7, which means there might be a sense of urgency here, especially for Venom, in my personal opinion. He needs a first. He can't mess around right now. He wants to get that second place in the global standings. Very important with seeding into the playoffs. So I'm personally looking out for Venom to really make a big move.
Yeah, an unlikelihood for Brizzo turning into an impossibility here.
Dream's
he needs
over.
a lot of, I mean, it's disappearing rapidly.
Yep.
We're hitting the final lap now around this track, and he needs a miracle.
But how difficult is it for a privateer driver, a driver who is not affiliated with a team, to even get to this stage still with a chance of getting in the playoffs? I think that's quite a remarkable achievement.
It's an incredible achievement, and a huge congratulations to Brizzo and a few other privateers who've made it in there. Rich 92 F1, not someone we've seen in the Wednesday Showdowns, but I just got to call him out because he's the top privateer on the leaderboard, and I think I may well be coming to Seattle, so fantastic performance from him throughout the season. It makes a difference, though, John, to get to your question, joining a team, because they share information with each other. They teach each other the tracks. They show each other the fastest lines and the little nuances that they discover, these very top Forza players.
Because we should make the point, you're not allowed to tune these cars. These cars are out of the box with a standard state of tune, setup, suspension, etc. So it's a spec race, this.
Here's that turn 10. Once again, Force One going around in front. Venom having so much trouble trying to close that gap. This is the final moments of the race right here. And again, speaking towards what you guys were talking about, Brizzo especially, our next series starting in July. Keep all of these names in mind, because they'll certainly be back and fighting into future opportunities, so we might see him in the next playoffs. But as we get around these final turns here, 11, 12, 13, 14, with 2 turns to go, Force One is just having an awesome race day right now, even extending his lead further and further into the final straight, and Force One will take another victory here. Venom just behind in second place, some decent points going towards the global standings, and pretty much the same lineup as we've seen throughout this race. Not any huge movements there in the front. Most of the movements happening among the back of the field as Force One takes this race.
Thanks, Alex. Great stuff there as far as the second race of the day is concerned, and those Corvettes are just so entertaining. Not a huge amount of passing there, but Ali on the edge braking, on the edge racing, and on the edge of your seat for quite a lot of those drivers. Unfortunately, the dream now officially is over. It's mathematically impossible for Brizzo to get through into the playoffs.
Brizzo, yeah, I mean, you know, all of these drivers, Brizzo included, have to give themselves just a massive round of applause, pat on the back. Absolutely incredible performance from him. He's sadly, not making it into the top 50, so he's not going to make it into the Seattle playoff. We've got another playoff coming up, so it's not a big deal.
Here's a question that I'm asking this because I don't know the answer to it. So if the guys who've already qualified into the first playoff here in Seattle, are they allowed to go again in Series 2?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is Series 1 and Series 2 are more like 2 halves of what is the Forza Racing Championship 2018, a massive, massive season of events. So we're going to see the same names coming back and getting ready for Mexico City.
So we might yet see Brizzo, if he can just improve slightly, he's going to finish just outside of the top 50. We might yet see a privateer in the top 50.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I would like to say as well, Brizzo, you know, by a combination of being in NA and being a privateer, and maybe there's a bigger skill spread there, is the privateer we're seeing in the Wednesday Showdown, but not the top privateer. Rich 92 F1, someone we haven't seen in the Wednesday Showdowns in EMEA. He's running the show right now.
And where's he going to finish in the global standing? Somewhere in the 50s?
Yeah, within the semi-pro tier, so between 24 and 50.
All right, okay, so he is going to be in that top 50.
And
okay.
he might get picked up in a heartbeat by a team. We always got to look out for that. I mean, you know, just seeing these privateers do so well on this stage, you got to look out for those teams looking to pick up some more members, you know.
Let's take a look at the provisional results then of our second race. It was the Corvettes at Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya, and confirmed what we saw. We're waiting for adjudication, of course, but once again, just a perfect, an absolutely perfect run from the pole position for Force One. A little bit of pressure early on from Venom. Vanquish moving up into third, but nobody has any answer for Force One at the moment. We're waiting for adjudication. Whilst we do that, we'll just take a slight breather after all that action from Circuit de Catalunya, and the Wednesday Showdown continues live from Seattle next. Well, we've taken a quick breather. We've reset ourselves, rubbed ourselves down with a damp towel after that excitement from Catalonia. And let's head straight to Brian with some highlights from that race. On the edge, driving all the way through, Brian. Great contest.
Great contest, and I think I'm actually going to need more than a damp towel to cool off, but that's not for this broadcast. We're going to talk a little bit about the top two guys. You remember in the EMEA race earlier today, we were talking about Lage and Mitch, the top two drivers, really making a race of their own between those two guys. Here, of course, we're going to be talking about Force One and Venom, who battled it out the entire race. We were talking about the gap that Force One sort of pulled out as the race went on. You saw Venom towards the end of the race not making much of a it felt like he was very comfortable in second place here. One thing I wanted to point out is the lap times for the entire race. Only Venom and Force One were doing 153s. Everybody else in the field was 154 or slower. A real gap in talent that we're seeing here, or at least these guys are feeling like they're right on the edge here.
I thought there was a chance at the very beginning, gents, for Venom to put some pressure. We saw him get a quarter of the way alongside Force One. Then he, to the middle part of the race, he actually dropped back. In fact, I think Brian had the curse of the analyst, if not the commentator,
right. Yeah, sorry about
because he was closing in and then he dropped back. But then he seemed to find a bit more pace towards the end and stretch that gap again. So comfortable, I think you said, and I kind of agree with that.
I think he felt good about second place, and you know it could have been Force One was feeling okay in first place. He decided to maybe he knows he's in a reverse grid race for race 3. Maybe he's backing down a little bit while keeping Venom behind him, but he's allowing that gap to sort of shorten up a little bit. So at the end there, I think both of these guys were happy with 2 1-2s in a row.
Let's head over to Kate as we're waiting for the final results to be confirmed. Kate, what do you have?
Well, I just want to say that the Wednesday Showdown is called a Wednesday Showdown because there's a whole lot of battles. We're 5 of 6 events here today. And earlier in the day, we had the EMEA Showdown, if you will. And my goodness, it was some epic racing. I think Lage is one happy guy here this evening. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from what we saw earlier.
Earlier on today, we saw the drivers in EMEA compete in a final bid to establish their starting position in the Series 1 playoff. Lage's sole focus was putting as many points as possible to secure a second on the grid starting position. Mitch was in the same frame of mind though, trying to secure a 5th place starting position after both drivers secured a hat-trick of wins in the Sunday races. Their efforts were rewarded, with them finishing 1st and 2nd in races 1 and 2. Their fate would be decided by the dreaded reverse grid, with Lage and Mitch starting dead last, looking upon a hungry grid. Lage had to get 3rd. The Honda IndyCar Road America track car combination made it difficult for overtaking opportunities, and with the Veloce brothers extending their growing lead, it seemed like the Forza gods had decided the Frenchman's fate, crossing the line in a hard-fought 5th. In the golden moments of adjudication, Rossi and racers were handed penalties, seeing them drop down the pecking order, boosting Lage up to 3rd, temporarily securing 2nd overall. Going into the NA regions, F4H Venom is all that stands in his way. What can Venom do to steal Lage's spoils of racing?
I have absolutely no idea how the guys backstage cut that down into that small package. It was cracking stuff earlier on and had an impact in the global standings, and we'll talk again about that later on. But first, let's get up to date with the confirmed results then from our second race here in the North American region. There's the final results. 5-second penalty for Sparky didn't affect what went on at the front of the field, Ali.
Yep, Sparky there, just getting a little bit of a penalty. I'm not entirely sure what for. I would guess contact. It seems the marshals are often a little bit more quick to give a penalty for contact than anything else. I've got to say as well, Venom, 2 silvers so far in this Wednesday Showdown, and that's not going to be enough so far for him to threaten Lage over in EMEA on that global leaderboard. He needs a win in this last race.
Yeah, and it shows how important those races were earlier, especially Lage able to just race so well, not knowing what results would come from these North America races. So Lage putting it all out there, and that's certainly showing right now to really be benefiting him.
And it's going to be really hard to get that victory in the 3rd race because let's not forget it's a reverse grid race, so he's going to be starting from very close to the back. He's going to need,
guys, I'm so excited about this reverse grid, by the way. Because how amazing has Force One been from the front? And now we're going to see him at the back? Look out.
I think.
Look out.
Here's my prediction.
Okay.
He's been the man. He's been Mystic Meg with the crystal ball.
This is
It's my
true.
prediction. I reckon he'll get a podium, but I don't think he'll win it. There you go. That's what I'm saying.
I still think that's bold. I still think it will be hard for him to get top 5 even. It's just that hard. It's not easy. All these guys are so good.
It will be all come down, I think, to how he gets off the start. Let's get back to Kate for some more news on what's going on here in Seattle.
Oh, I just love hearing you guys talk about this. That's what is so much fun about racing, right? Is you just never know. Any racer can win on any given day, especially with a reverse grid. But hey, you guys went with pole number 3, the number 5 of James Hinchcliffe. And one thing that I find so interesting is he's making big news right now, the fact that he's not running the Indy 500 this coming weekend. Now, I think that's interesting because both of our races at Road America today were with James Hinchcliffe's car. He did get in 2017 20th at Road America. However, something to note about James Hinchcliffe at Road America is that he knows that this track was made for racers. He said it wasn't designed for a formulaic approach, but it's big, it's clear, it's not a parking lot property. And I think that's one thing to note about Road America altogether. It is America's national park of speed. This is one that is much quicker than it appears. Make sure you keep an eye out for that turn 1. Turn 3, difficult downhill braking area. You got to control your top speed all the way through turns 4 and 5. And then, of course, the elevation and surface changes at Road America will make this race even more interesting. And I'm just glad we're doing it in support of James Hinchcliffe today.
Yeah, agree. Got some friends working at Smith Peterson Motorsport. And by the way, if you're thinking we're making a big leap of faith because there was a chance for Hinch to be in the 500s, he tweeted a little bit earlier on today that they've stopped looking for an opportunity to get him in the race. He will not be taking part in the 102nd running of the Indy 500. Right, let's find out who is going to be at the sharp end of the field in our reverse grid. They're all in the arrow number 5 of James Hinchcliffe. So it's an absolutely spec race again on a circuit that rewards bold driving. But as we've seen in the Sunday events and today, the first couple of corners, Ali, tyres not up to temperature, easy to make a simple mistake and get on the gas too early.
Take a page out of Roadrunner's book right there, lighting up the rears on the way out turn 1, big old spin, and that wrecked his race.
All right, let's take a look to see how they line up and who takes your eye here, Alex. The guys at the front, obviously, they've got a great opportunity to be in the limelight. Sparky, who got that 5-second penalty in Hurricane, but who, a little bit further back, maybe even Brizzo could go out in a blaze of glory.
Literally anything can happen here, and that's what's going to be phenomenal about this race. The first 2 races, we didn't see too much movement. I think we're going to be seeing an incredible amount of movement here. We're going to see so many passes. There's going to be some risk being taken. This is the last race before the playoffs for all of these guys. So an opportunity to one last chance to really be in that competitive environment and really make some moves. But I'm very interested in the strategy because we know we're going to see Force 1, Billy Sue, Venom, Vanquish, those guys in the back. They're going to be looking for those moves. I'm very interested in how they're going to do it and which turns they're going to try to make that happen.
The bottleneck here for me, potentially, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, the difficulty here of coming through the field from the guys at the back is Lightning. Because he is a good driver, and I think he'll enjoy this challenge from the middle of the pack. And what he's not going to want to do is let anybody go past him easily, Ali.
I mean, Lightning is the latest person to be welcomed into Ali's boulevard of broken dreams. Is that Green Date line? I can't remember.
You got it.
Yeah. He sadly cannot get his way past Mitch or Box to move up the field in the global ranking. So this last race, may be important, but won't be important for that.
The drivers are ready. The track is ready. We've got the Indy cars on the grid in the month of May, and the green lights are on. We're racing, and Alex has all the action for you.
A couple tight turns in the front, turns 1 and 3. We saw catastrophe in the EMEA region as we saw a driver spin out of control. So we'll have to see what happens here. So far, so clean right now. Look at this bunch up, though. All these guys incredibly close together. Look at the contact as well here. We're taking a look at the 8 car, the 9 car, car in the back. Of course, these are our players. Force 1 in the very back, though. Look for him to make those moves. We're looking at Harmonic 2 right there in front, but it looks like we're not seeing anyone spin out of control, heading down into the more technical part of the track as we get midway through this lap number 1. Now we're seeing some moves. Brizzo, we can see getting past.
What a line!
Look at all these moves
What a
happening.
line.
Who is this that we're watching just making that move all the way through to that 5 spot? That's Vanquish going on through, followed by Shadow Fox, Harmonic, McQueen. I'm still looking out for Force 1. It looks like he is in that 10th position. Venom just behind him. Billy Sue at the very back. But 10, 11, and 12. Force 1, Venom, and Billy Sue. Keep an eye on those guys because they're going to make some moves. We're looking at them right now.
What a pass by Venom. 2 round the outside as they went into the carousel.
That's Brizzo, a little bit of a knock there onto this number 12, but getting back into position. Looks like we're looking at Force 1. So Force 1 actually getting in an altercation there with Brizzo, and now he's a little bit further off the back. He's been used to being in the very front, and now he's having to play some catch up.
Yeah, so absolute chaos off the start. Sparky leads the way from Hurricane. Just to refresh that, Lightning is 3rd on the podium right now. So Lightning, an incredible start from him, but is it a little bit too late? Venom needs the win.
And Venom is going for the win. There's no doubt about it. He is bold. He is brave as he went through Hurry Downs and into turn 8, round the outside of 2 cars last time around. That tells me he's at 1 with this IndyCar. And we're only on lap 2 of 8. So there's still plenty of action to come, Alex.
Yeah, a lot of action to come here. We're still, again, as you mentioned, in the first quarter of this race. Definitely keep a close eye on Venom. We know what's at stake here. Venom, he is chasing Lees right now from that EMEA region, but he has to have the race of his life to make it happen because he's all the way back in the 9th or 10th position, and he's got to make a lot of moves to get onto the front. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, we're looking at the front of the pack. Lightning making a move over all the way to 2nd place, and that's a great move from Lightning. That's exactly what he wants. Vanquish as well, sneaking his way into that 3rd position. So slowly but surely, our drivers at the top of the standings making their way towards the front.
Lightning from 7th position on the grid is now up to 2nd, and he sniffs a victory here.
Absolutely right. So good start there from Lightning. Hurricane moving down the field now, tumbling back to 4th position. I'm just showing you, if you come offline Lightning, what is that?
That's for the lead.
Beautiful.
That's for the lead.
Through the carousel, up the inside, and just making it look so easy. Hot knife through butter.
Yeah, just like that, Lightning just gently maneuvering his way up to the front without any issue whatsoever. He started in the middle of the pack, and now he's at the front. Will he be caught? That's the question on my mind. It's not going to be by Force 1. He's way back in 10th place. Billy Sue all the way back in 9th. Venom, though, he's in 7th. Again, we're going to keep a close eye on him as we're seeing a big battle here between that 2nd and 3rd position. Sparky trying to hold off here. Remember, he started in the front, so he's trying to not lose as much momentum as possible. But for now, keeping a decent advantage here over Vanquish, who's, again, trying to chase after Lightning, who seems to be extending his lead further and further. Here's a move attempt there.
That's a great
from
move.
Vanquish, and he's able to make it past, and now he's going to try to chase down Lightning, who's in the very front.
Those 2 passes on Sparky are very bad news indeed for Venom. He was hoping that Sparky would hold those guys back and he would be able to get his way through to them. It's not going to happen, and he's going to struggle now to get enough points out of this race. But what we have got is a real proper old-fashioned fist fight between these 2 guys at the front of the field. Now that they've disposed of Sparky, and through comes Rebs there as well, that's going to be a real battle at the front of the field.
And we have a relatively close, look at this area here between number 1 and number 7, even our driver in position number 8. All very compact. These guys are very close to each other, especially 5 through 7 there. So look out for these moves to be made here as, again, this is the last race for these guys. So this is their opportunity to make their presence known, and they are not going to leave anything behind here as, again, they want to make those moves. They want to get to the front. Still keeping an eye on Venom. He's way far back, though, at this point. Looks like he's in that 7th or 8th position, trying to make it through towards the front, but it's going to be tough at this point. Lightning showing a lot of strength here, I think, making that move to the very front, and now it looks like he just wants to pour on that advantage and not leave any room for anyone to catch him.
Sparky, a little word in his In his defense, a little bit of a tough moment, a tough lap from him, sinking all the way from first down to, I think, 9th position now. So a shame for THR Sparky, the only guy holding the flag for Team Highlands.
Yeah, Venom with another pass right there, getting to that 4th position. Okay, that's exactly what he needs. Remember, Ali, I mean, we might need some math here. Again, if he's going to catch Liege, but second, and now he's in 4th. That's exactly what he's looking for. And now we're seeing Harmonic trying to chase after Venom here. He just got passed for it by him, and he's going to try to make up that ground. But Venom, he is a man on a mission. He is determined to get to the front of this pack. He knows what's at stake, and it's a seed at the Global Championship.
And if he can make up 1 position, I reckon that's enough points. That would give him 37 points, wouldn't it?
Venom needs the win.
He needs the win.
Nothing but gold for him. He's got to catch up Lightning. He's got to pass him. And take home that top step on the podium in order to threaten Liege. So I think the second that Lightning took the lead in this race, a certain Frenchman got a big smile on his face.
Vive la France. Ooh la la. Ooh la la. It's all looking very good indeed for Liege at the moment, who I'm sure somewhere in Central Europe in the Central European time in the very early hours of the morning is going to be watching this with interest. We're halfway through the race, and Brian has more news.
I'm going to call this a feeding frenzy in the mid-pack and Sparky, unfortunately, is the victim here, because we saw in this replay package that we're about to throw up here, we saw Lightning take over Sparky, and we saw Vanquish taking him over as well. So you got to feel for these guys that are at the front of the race, and they're just getting eaten alive by some of the best drivers in North America.
Yeah, very clean overtaking as well going on in the middle part of this race. Thanks, Brian.
Guys, I feel like Venom is actually making some progress here. I feel like he's getting closer and closer to that 3rd position right in front of him. You know, Lightning's way out in front, but for now, Venom right now, he's like 1 step at a time. Rev's right in front of him. He's going to try to track him down. So again, Venom needs a 1st place here to get that seeding at our playoffs, and he's definitely going to be looking out for that. And now we're looking at his car right now. You see that Rev's right in front of him. So definitely keep a close eye on Venom here. Again, it is up to him to get that 1st place, and he's going to put everything out there to make that happen.
And he's closed that gap. I wasn't sure he could do that. He's now got a target, and Revs is going to go here. He's going to get him. I think he's got the car underneath him. Venom, this is in the second of the 2 red cars. I really think he's got the car to do this, but he still has 2 further passes to make after. I mean, this is definitely the drive of the day, Ali, but it still might not be enough to get him further up the global leaderboard.
It was a huge ask. It was a huge ask for Venom. Running behind his teammate right now, Revs, he might make it easy for Venom. I can tell you someone who's not going to make it easy for Venom is last week's winner, AMS Vanquish, sitting in 2nd place there. He'll fight him down to the wire, and every time these cars go side by side, it works for Lightning. Everything works for Lightning. Pounding his pace in at the front, and he has checked out.
Yeah, Lightning is going nuts right now. He is way off in the front, and Venom has his work cut out for him, especially after a little bump there onto his teammate Revs, trying to find some room to maneuver and to get past him, but misjudging his braking just a little bit there. It certainly didn't mean to hit his teammate that hard there in the back, but maybe trying to make his presence known a little bit, trying to find some room to make that pass happen. Venom, he has his eyes on that 1st place spot, but at this point, I'm a little nervous for him, guys. Lightning is so far out in front. He entered this race, again, with a mission in his own right. He would love to get that checkered flag, and it looks like he's well on his way.
And Revs has got to pull over and let his teammate go through here if he's got any chance at all. I understand Revs is running his own race, but he's going to be in the 30s. He's currently 34th. The best he could get in the global standings is 30th, and his teammate is racing for potentially a front row spot in the global overall standings. Ali, he's got to let him go.
I mean, what is he, a doormat?
Oh, there it is. Venom with the pass. He found the perfect moment there, passing up Revs. Revs not having to pull over in that case, and Venom just finding the perfect spot there to pass him on by. And now I wonder, is Revs going to try to get that spot back? That's going to be something to look out for. But Venom, he's in the 3rd position, and now he has his eyes set onto that 2nd position. That's Vanquish right in front of him. But again, Lightning still way off in the distance. So a tall order here. We're at lap 6 out of 8 And Venom, I think he's got his work cut out for him.
Venom is showing such pace at the moment. He's going to be exceptionally frustrated if he can't get into second place, that he falls a lap short of getting a chance of battling for the lead, because he's spent a lap and a quarter, a lap and a half, Ali, behind his teammate, which has undoubtedly slowed his extraordinary progress towards the front of the field.
Yes, yeah, absolutely right, John. I mean, all these drivers racing very fast right now. Lightning getting away with it a little bit. I've got to say, this is all playing very nicely in terms of the global leaderboard into the hands of the drivers from EMEA. In general, the threat from Venom, the threat from Lightning not showing up here in the end. And that's because they're all fighting each other in NA, which of course they're bound to do. They're not on the same team.
And look at this. Look at Force One here. Remember, he had some exchanges with Brizzo and found himself in the very back. But right here, we can see just the skill of Force One being shown, passing at least 5 drivers in the past few laps here to get into that 6th position. Very impressive driving here from Force One, making the moves. And I got to think, actually, back in the front of the race, I think they're pulling in Lightning just a little bit, so we'll keep an eye on that. Venom is still, he has the ambition on his mind. He wants that first place, and I really think that they're drawing Lightning back in just a little bit.
I think you're right. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. If he falls half a lap or a lap short, I think reasonably, the man in second place at the moment, F4H Venom, who is battling for second place in the global standings, is going to be slightly disappointed with his teammate for not allowing him back through the field. Vanquish coming under pressure now in second place, and it can only be a matter of time here. This race is going to be 2 or 3 laps too short, I reckon, for the man currently in third place.
Yeah, you know, Venom should have done it earlier, right? I mean, you know, we can hype it all the way through. Ooh, as McQueen takes a bit of a wild ride there on the back straight. You know, we can dress it up, but Venom maybe has already missed his chance here. He needed to be in. He needed the win here on the reverse grid race, a big ask in itself. Maybe he should have gotten slightly better results earlier on in the 2 races that Force One took home.
Yeah, and even just the task of passing all of these incredible drivers and this talent we're seeing on this track is such a tall order as well. But Venom, you know, showing just how skilled he is, and maybe that can be helpful towards his mentality going into the playoffs. So Venom definitely a guy to keep an eye on, even though he's not going to get the seed he's looking for. It looks like still going to be certainly a contender in the playoffs. But for now, he's trying to find his way past Vanquish as we are in lap 8 out of 8. This must be all but a victory here for Lightning. He just has to make sure to stick his line and not make any mistakes there in the front, and he should come home with the checkered flag. But Venom trying to find some room onto Vanquish, but Vanquish being very annoying and not allowing that pass to happen. And I wouldn't either. Vanquish definitely wants that second place for himself, and he's gonna fight defensively here to try to hold on to that second place.
Come on, Venom. Closing moments of Series 1. Let's get one for pride. Get past Vanquish. He's got a chance here, right? Surely.
Vanquish is doing an absolutely brilliant job. Didn't have the best run out of turn 3 down the middle straight, and had to go very, very deep on the brakes into turn 5 to keep Venom behind him. And the same again later on in the lap. This is great driving. He's putting his car exactly where Vanquish doesn't want it to be. And I reckon it's going to have to be the final corner if Venom can get close enough to him. The leader is gone, and barring mistakes, he'll take it, and Alex has the run to the flag.
Yeah, there you see Lightning in the front entering that final straight, and he's going to get that checkered flag. But can Venom make any room? Can he make anything happen here as Lightning crosses through that checkered flag? And it looks like Vanquish is going to get past Venom. Somehow, someway, he makes the pass happen, and Venom passing in second place. But he's going to be proud of himself, but at the same time, he needed first. So ultimately, not going to matter at the end of the day. But what a race here from Venom, all the way from the back, and making passing 8 cars overall to get to that second position. Just phenomenal. And honestly, if anything, just for his confidence going into the playoffs in this setting, we're live on broadcast. These guys know that they're live on air, and you got to imagine the pressure that's involved there. So for Venom to hold it in and to show that maturity and make those moves happen, very impressive.
We'll check the results. Not quite sure that Venom got through on the line there, and we'll have to wait for the results to say that. that aside, it was a great drive by Vanquish, great drive by Venom, fabulous drive at the front of the field by Lightning. I thought that was exemplary, paced himself perfectly well.
Last time the global leaderboard was updated, Lightning was running second place. He could have been out this week. We could have been singing his praises, the winner of the Series 1 top seed. He threw it all away in the global rivals. He's not been able to pull out brilliant results here in the races, but that last moment, one for pride for Lightning, got himself flag in the ground, and now he can go into the playoffs with that head held high.
And we saw that really significant move by Lightning just to get to the front. And you got to imagine the difficulty of that, especially considering the nature of the reverse positions there. When you're able to make those happen, we saw that move from him literally passing 3 or 4 cars in just a moment. And those are the moves you have to be able to make in these settings.
Provisional results we can take a look at, so let's see how they cross the line, at least before any penalties.
Okay.
Lightning,
Vanquish held on
and
there
Venom,
in second, yeah.
very, very close on the line. And Revs in 4th place. Then Harmonic, decent run for Harmonic. Force One fighting his way after an early altercation going off at the carousel, wasn't it? And coming back through the field. That was a pretty good drive.
Poor Sparky.
The pass on Sparky at the front of the field, that was the key thing for me, that pass was made so quickly. We will wait for the results of that 3rd and final race of the Wednesday Showdown to be made official. We can go to Brian for the highlights of that one. What have you picked out, Brian? Because there was plenty of action that went on in that 3rd and final race.
We had plenty of highlights in the back to choose from. We've got like 2 moments of the race, I guess say. Not necessarily Michelin moments, but moves of the race. First up, we've got Revs and Venom. Now, these guys are teammates. These guys are pushing each other throughout this entire race. But you see this incredible dive from Venom right there at the right-hand corner. And look at that. I don't know if it was a matter of Revs getting a little bit early with his brakes or Venom just being super aggressive. You see a passing here on the left-hand side. But after this, after he got past his teammate, he just made it stick, and he started after Vanquish immediately. Here's another great move you might have missed, McQueen and Billy Sue. You see McQueen get a little bit loose there, and it looks like Billy Sue actually slowed down. Billy Sue could have probably made that pass stick if he wanted to, but I think he was very aware of, of the car in front of him, didn't want to cause an accident, so he just kind of slowed down, made sure he got across the start-finish line. So great moves by all these guys.
That is a typical thing at that track, that it's actually like a street circuit there because the walls are so close. And I've seen in real life racing an IndyCar just pinballing all the way down there and completely destroying itself. So I think that was a pretty smart move to stay away from that. Again, decisive moves, Ali, has paid off there. Those IndyCars are fast. My brain is not clocked fast enough to actually use that car in Forza. I just can't work that quickly.
It's an incredible challenge, right? You know, we've had the IndyCar challenge running on Forza already. All these IndyCar drivers out there. I've been trying to set a time around that oval. Hard when it's all left-handers. A different story again when there's some right-handers thrown in.
You know, on that oval, when there's a difference of maybe 0.5 of a second, and it's the difference between 1st and 1,000th position, you know, that's oval racing for you, you know.
And that's why we love it.
That's why we love oval racing, absolutely.
It's all about that last tiny little bit. We're waiting for the results to be confirmed. Whilst we do that, we'll have a quick breath and come through not only with the results from that race, but how that sets up the global standings. And that, of course, means how things will be going for our Series 1 playoffs live in a couple of weeks' time here at Seattle. That's all still to come.
Does anybody else get chills watching that? I am so ready for the 102nd running of the Indy 500. It's coming up this weekend. As you saw, Takuma Sato, the defending winner, he's actually starting a little lower in the field, 16th, but my goodness, you guys were all racing the Honda. That of James Hinchcliffe, unfortunately, won't be making the race, but a couple of his teammates will be, and it's going to be a big battle between Honda and Chevy for the 102nd running. Team Penske, one of the teams that's running Chevy, got 4 of their drivers, all 4 of them in the top 9, the Fast 9. And I'm telling you what, Ed Carpenter is chomping at the bit to get his first Indy 500 win. He's had 3 pulls. He'll be starting on the inside of the front row. We'll see what's going to happen. I know I'm stoked. I'm heading back to Indy. Gentlemen, what's your pick? I'm going to call it Pick the Pit. Which one do you think is going to win?
I think it's really tough because we've seen a month of May that has had a lot of drama. We had Bump Day for the first time in, 7 years or so. And the man who was on pole a couple of years ago, James Hinchcliffe, not in the race. Also missing out Pippa Mann. Lots of very, very sad faces about that. But I think it's wide open. But the Penske train, the Penske steamroller continues. I've just got a sneaking suspicion that the one-off driver, Elio Castro Neves, might be the man to do it. He's in a rich vein of form.
I'm sold on the story. I like the Ed Carpenter story. I'm going there, you know. Get on that hype train.
But what he said earlier on in our Indy 500, it's not just about one lap, and it's particularly not about one lap in the Indy 500.
I'm a story guy personally. I like what Venom did there in that race, what Lightning did there in that race, making those big moves. That's what I'm looking for. It's not about any particular racer for me. It's about looking for those big moves and who's going to make that happen.
Well, you talk about Venom making that move, and we've got another chance to have a look at it here. And there's a very good reason for having a look at this pass when he was so late and down the inside into turn number 5. We were just absolutely on the edges. RC came from so far back, and he's fessed up to that he missed his braking point, and it was a quote unintentional overtake. How he got it stopped, Ali, if that was the case, and it wasn't even a massive block pass on his teammate, came from so far back. I mean, all right, it didn't start as an intentional overtake, but my goodness me, it was brilliant. And kudos to Venom for fessing up to that. Thank you, sir. That's very good stuff.
I mean, you kind of, wouldn't you want to build your teammate up rather than kind of break them down like that? You want to be like, oh, I really put everything I had into that overtaking. Well, gee whiz, thanks for making it easy for me, Revs. You know.
and even if that was an accidental line, that's something he can take with him into a future race. So maybe he just found something that works for the future.
When you make a mistake and miss your braking point by the tiniest amount, when you've got no assists on, just making the corner is, an effort in itself. Making the corner and making the overtake and making it stick, extraordinary stuff. It's that control on the braking trigger on the left-hand side of the controller, just being able to feather that back and still get the car to turn in.
It's when the limitation of the car changes from being the front wheels, trying to steer in, get the thing to rotate into the corner, to being the rear wheels. It's that moment of pivot that you get between those two limitations that Venom just got so sweet in that overtake.
Intentional or not, Venom will take it, and we salute you, sir, for coming back and giving us the full SP on what was going on there. Whilst we wait for the confirmation of our final result of the Wednesday Showdown for North America, let's take a look at the provisional standings for the global leaderboard. And Ali, we've been doing some arithmetic all day. This is going to get very interesting in the next few moments when we see how the points are going to shake out here after that final race.
Absolutely right, John. So to be clear about what we're looking at right now, this is the global leaderboard updated up to the minute, provisionally, apart from the US competitors, or the competitors in the North America region. So Venom's points, Lightning's points, they haven't been updated yet. Venom fighting Lage for 2nd, Lightning fighting Box and Mitch for 5th.
Well, let's see how many points they're going to be able to add on to that leaderboard as we have the confirmed results from our final race with that IndyCar Challenge. And it is Lightning, and there's nothing to change, nothing to change. So Lightning, Vanquish and Venom, we could barely keep them apart on the line. It was so close, but Vanquish held on by the smallest of margins. Venom gets the 12 points for the third, then Revs, Harmonic, and Force One. I'll let Ali do some quick arithmetic. Alex, some final thoughts from you, your first experience of the Forza Racing Championship, and you're going to be holding the fort for the the playoff picture,
Yeah.
which is looking a lot clearer now. First of all, have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely. I've absolutely loved this. And, you know, especially that last race, just seeing that reverse pole order, just the storylines that can emerge there and just the passes that are required. Like Lightning, an incredible race. I think Lightning, Venom, and then Force One. I think they all three had really nice races that they should be very, very proud of. Starting near the back, but really making a lot of moves and staying mature and staying safe, because I feel like it can be easy to get yourself in a little bit of trouble if you're trying to make those passes, and especially when you're forced into that situation. I think they showed a lot of maturity, showing just how good they are at this Forza title, and just making some great waves today.
There's a lot on the line today, Ali. I thought everybody performed pretty well under great pressure. You've done the arithmetic. I think we're fairly certain how things have shaken out. Do I need a little drum roll? Get the bongos out on the side here.
You know, we have been spectating EMEA and NA all season, right? We've focused on specific drivers, our favorites coming through it, but it's been a LATAM driver who's led the standings recently. I think he's provisionally, and this is based on my, you know, maths, whatever that's worth, Hard BR has taken that #1 seed in this final week.
So important.
So important, and an incredible achievement there from the driver from Latin America. Second will be, I think, Lage. Third, Wesley, another Latin American driver, and then Venom, 4th place just behind there.
So that's the end of our racing up to the playoffs. It's now basically knockout when we come back in a couple of weeks' time. But that's not the end of our broadcasts, and Kate has all the details before we say goodbye this evening.
That is not the end yet. Of course, this is the last Wednesday Showdown, but we're back with you on June 6th to talk really about the Series 1 playoff, right? We got to figure out the who's, the what's, and of course, there's a special team exhibition. This is one you don't want to miss out on. I've been hearing you guys really enjoy that. But until then, we appreciate you watching our 2018 Forza Racing Championship. I'm Kate. Alongside me is John, Ali, and Alex. And by the way, Alex, we're glad you enjoyed the first time. We appreciate you having us, being on board with us. But anyways, we will see you next time on June 6th. Until then, keep racing.